As much as I love the Ogre Kingdoms, they do have an Achilles heel, and that is their lack of magic damage, so that allows enemies to use some very interesting combos to counteract them. In this battle, we'll be playing as the Ogre Kingdoms against ODM clan Bowman, with a Bretonnian army. Now, traditionally, Bretonnians aren't exactly great at dealing with Ogre Kingdoms, but today, Bowman does have a unique combo in handling my Ogre Kingdoms army, so we'll be looking at it in the battle itself. Now, for the army builds here, we have a front line of Nobblers, backed up by a bunch of Ogre Bulls with Iron Fists. On the flanks there, we have some Iron Guts providing some armor piercing and some tankier armored bodies to pin down enemy cavalry, absorbing charges from Knights of the Realm and other anti-large cavalry, and at the back here a few saber tusk packs, providing some extra mobility here, chasing down enemy cavalry. Now, for the leadership here, we have a single Slaughtermaster with the Great Maul, with the Bone Crusher and also Troll Guts. Also, a Bull Gorger in case we need some additional oomph to punch through enemy defenses. At the back here, for artillery, we have a single Nobbler Scrap Launcher to deal with the Bretonnian archers. Now for the Bretonnians, a very standard Chaffee infantry frontline. A bunch of peasant mobs and spearmen at arms, backed up by a single Grail Reliquary to provide that immune to psychology, in case there are some giant scary ogre monsters. Further back, another staple Bretonnian unit, the peasant bowmen, one of them with fire arrows and the other with pox arrows. Now finally, at the very rear of the Bretonnian army, their powerhouse units, their cavalry. A few Knights of the Realm and also a single Companions of Canal. In this guys, a unit of Pegasus Knights, a very good choice here since the Ogre Kingdoms doesn't have any flying units. While leading the army, Fey Enchantress, supported by the Green Knight and Henri Le Massif. Henri does have the Guardian, so he provides the Fey Enchantress with some extra physical resistance at 15%, combined with the Fey's 20% physical resistance. She has a total of 35% physical resistance, and also the Green Knight will be enjoying that buff as well, having physical resistance up to 75%, basically mitigating most of the damage coming from my units. On top of that, the Fey Enchantress is bringing the Flesh to Stone spell, providing another 60% physical resistance to any selected unit of her army. With all the physical resistance available to Bowman's Bretonnian army, this will no doubt be an uphill battle for my Ogre Kingdoms. The battle will begin with the Scrap Launcher firing shots into the peasant infantry formation, hoping to eliminate as much infantry support for the Bretonnian army as possible, with the Ogre Bulls and Iron Guts dealing with the Bretonnian cavalry. However, my opponent also jumping in with a bunch of single entities, all of them with physical resistance or just very tough to fight in general. Henri Le Massif heavy armor 105. The Green Knight 75% physical resistance, and then we have the Fey Enchantress here having 35% physical resistance. That essentially renders my Ogre Bulls useless as they do not have enough armor piercing and they don't have any access to magic damage either. Perhaps the Iron Guts can do some damage to Henri Le Massif if they get a surround, but definitely not against the other two physically resistant character. On the flank, there are some Knights of the Realm pushing a little too close to my formations and will be sallying out with some Iron Guts. With my opponent's slight slip in micro, I was able to catch some of these Knights with an Ogre charge. But a beautiful counter charge from the other unit of Knights of the Realm here, allowing the first unit to pull through the ranks of their comrades, while the second unit do some really good charge damage with their charge bonus onto the Iron Guts. I tried to catch the first unit with some Saber Tusk packs, but unfortunately with the Spearmen at Arms coming in for screening, most of the Knights managed to extract themselves from combat. These Saber Tusk packs are not long for this world as they are fighting a lot of anti-large troops. On the right flank, similar stuff is happening here, trying to catch these Companions and the Knights of the Realm with some Saber Tusk, but then again they just got wrecked by all these anti-large units. I managed to hurt the Companions with a Bone Crushing Fist, but unfortunately these Iron Guts right now are overextended, surrounded by anti-large units, and with the Ogre troops occupied, my lord is now surrounded by two powerful melee combatants, Henri and the Green Knight. At the back, some diving Pegasus is caught by an Iron Guts charge. However, they do have that physical resistance from the Flesh to Stone now. Originally, the charge bonus, which lasts 15 seconds, is more than enough to wreck the unit, but Flesh to Stone lasts 19 seconds, and that is more than enough to render that charge bonus useless. Of course, once the spell wears off, that physical resistance is gone and the Pegasus Knights will be taking damage like normal, but they have succeeded in pinning down a lot of resources from the Ogre Kingdoms, preventing them from moving to elsewhere and reinforce other engagements. Now on the left flank of the Ogre army, we have emerged with a slight bit of advantage in this mobility combat here, wrecking 2 units of Knights of the Realm, doing some major damage, but we have also lost 2 of our most crucial units in the entire army, 2 of the Saber Tusk packs. Still, we'll be pushing on with the Iron Guts here, but this might be an issue with all these Iron Guts on the left flank, as our right flank is now low on troops, having our Slaughtermaster surrounded, with some of these Iron Guts taking major damage from all these anti-large cavalry, and one of the Iron Guts spending way too much time on the Pegasus Knights due to the physical resistance from the Flesh to Stone. My Slaughtermaster without any support troops is now getting slaughtered instead. I was able to drop a Butcher here trying to heal him up, but there's nothing to save the Lord right now. Completely surrounded by anti-large units, including Ogre Le Massif, and also Fey Enchantress isn't exactly poor in melee combat. Being trapped by all the high mass cavalry, the Slaughtermaster cannot extract himself from the engagement, quickly dropping in terms of HP despite all the healing coming in from Butcher. With a few more hits from the Bretonnians' army, the Ogre Caster is no more. At the same time, the Fey has dropped in some healing, sustaining this blob of Bretonnian troops, and also even drop in a Flesh to Stone, boosting the physical resistance of the companions all the way up to 80%, since they do have that Blessing of the Lady providing an extra 20% of physical resistance. So even if they're surrounded by ogres and bombarded by the Scrap Launcher's projectiles, they're just tanking through all the damage like absolute chads. More and more ogres are pouring into the blob. Also, Iron Guts finally moving into support as they have finished off some of the mobility and peasants on the left flank. I've successfully dealt with all the archers, but unfortunately, the backbone of the Bretonnians remain largely active, being sustained by healings and buffs from the Fey Enchantress. The Iron Guts are doing their damnedest to fight, but they simply do not have any answer to all these tanky single entities. This Iron Guts might be healthy, but that means nothing if they can't do the damage. There are some Knights of the Realm on the side being picked off by some Ogre Bulls and Iron Guts combined. But the main blob is still fighting strong, especially with all 3 single entities almost full health, compressing my balance of power even more. The Scrap Launcher will be launching shots for now as I managed to screen off the Pegasus Knights, but against a scattered formation of cavalry, it is not much of use. I'll be charging in some Iron Guts here, hoping to slow down the Bretonnian advance, but there is no stopping to the Green Knight and the Fey Enchantress. My Nobblers are routing to the side of the mighty Bretonnian Knights, while the peasant mobs are rallying to the call of their lords. On top of that, without any mobility on my end, the Bretonnians' Companions of Canal are simply unstoppable. They are going straight for that Nobbler launcher unit right there, and also getting some heals from the Earthblood of the Fey Enchantress. They still have 43 unit models remaining, which is a significant portion of its original fighting power. Plowing straight through all these Nobblers and going straight after the Nobbler Scrap Launcher once again. These Nobbler chaff are barely a speed bump to the most elite cavalry of the entire Bretonnian roster. The Green Knight alongside the Grail Reliquary are tied down by the Iron Guts and Ogre Bulls for now. But unfortunately, with the terror on the Green Knight, the leadership of the Ogre Bulls simply cannot sustain them in combat, and they will be routing off to the far end of the battlefield. The Iron Guts will beat down the Grail Reliquary, but the Green Knight will tank even without the 15% physical resistance from Ogre. He will also be doing some really good armor-piercing damage against these Iron Guts who rely on that armor to defend themselves. Also, companions charging straight into the Iron Guts, not caring at the armor-piercing damage at all thanks to the blessing from the Fey Enchantress, the Flash to Stone spell, buffing their physical resistance up to 80% yet again, ignoring all these armor-piercing damage from the Iron Guts, while they themselves, with their anti-large status and armor-piercing damage, are doing some really nice impact damage onto the Iron Guts. They have lost a few models after we last saw them, but they should now stop the bleeding as they extract themselves from the melee fight. Ogre Bulls going for a suicidal charge against the Bretonnian character squad. There is little doubt that they will lose this fight. Iron Guts surrounding the Grail Relic quite beating it down, but unfortunately that's not going to help them win. Balance of power overwhelmingly against my favor. Companions avoiding combat and chasing after routing units. Iron Guts trying to catch them, but they simply do not have the speed, since 2 legs is hard to catch up with something with 4. The Knights of the Realm will be routing off my remaining Ogre Bulls. The single entities, there is nothing to oppose them right now, not even the Iron Guts, my strongest and healthiest unit on the field. Nobblers, they won't be able to carry the game, so we'll be fast forwarding a bit here. Balance of power overwhelmingly in favor of Bretonia, with all 3 characters extremely healthy to prop it up. The Ogre Bulls going for a last hurrah, catching the companions with the help of this member. It would have been a great catch for the Ogres to avenge their fallen brothers, but once again the Flesh to Stone spell is here to stop it from happening. Ignoring a lot of that damage from all these Iron Guts, while they themselves are just slicing down these Iron Guts left, right and center. And with that, balance of power will shift more and more against my favor, giving the victory to my opponent in this tournament game. GG to my opponent Bowman here, a very well designed army, especially with the characters. The Fey Enchantress, Green Knight, and Henri Le Massif formed a powerful tanky unit core that can survive a lot of punishment from the Ogre Kingdoms with all that physical resistance on the Green Knight as well as the Fey Enchantress, which allows the Fey Enchantress to constantly drain away the health of any surrounding units using the Mist of the Lady. Also, the attack debuff on the Mist of the Lady also reduces the attacking output of the Ogre units. Henri Le Massif providing that physical resistance, shielding the Green Knight and Fey Enchantress, while the Fey Enchantress will be dropping on the heals to all these single entity units, keeping them in top fighting shape. While the Green Knight also has the terror effect, routing off units that have taken combat attrition, forcing the Ogre units to back out of the fight early, and also the armor piercing is very neat to use against the Iron Guts. Now, the Companions of Canal, usually they would take massive damage from the Iron Guts despite they themselves are great damage dealers, simply because the armor piercing from the Iron Guts and the healing will cause them to struggle quite a bit. But this time around, with all the healing from Fey Enchantress and that physical resistance from the Flesh to Stone spell, they were able to survive quite well despite surrounded by Ogres and deal massive damage to any surrounding foes. The Pegasus Knights not doing too much here as they do not exactly have the greatest target to fight. They try dropping down onto some Ogre Bulls, but they are caught by the Iron Guts, trapped on the ground and punched down by the armor-piercing great weapons. Yes, they receive that physical resistance, Flesh to Stone, but unfortunately once it wears off, they're just a little bit too squishy under the hands of armor-piercing monsters. Knights of the Realm did some okay damage, not exactly amazing here, as only one of them earned back their value, but Anti-Large, with their charge bonus, still is quite efficient against the Iron Guts. Peasant Bulls and the rest of the Peasant Chaff infantry not doing much here, being routed quite fast under the Ogre charge. In the end, it was the single entities occupying a large portion of that balance of power, while the Ogre Kingdoms, after losing the healing support and leadership from the Slaughter Master, eventually entered into a mass rout due to army losses. As you can see here, only one of the Iron Guts really earned back their damage, the rest not so much, and 2 of them even routed when they still have most of their unit models intact due to all the single entities propping up the Bretonian balance of power. And then the Ogre Bulls not doing a lot of damage here, again only one of them earned back their value. The Scrap Launcher, might as well call it Crap Launcher at this point, didn't really do a lot of damage here. They were originally firing at the peasants, but that didn't earn them back too much value since the peasants are dirt cheap, and then they switch over to shooting at the Knights of the Realm, and this time due to their projectiles not being primarily armor piercing, not a lot of damage was dealt to the Knight either. The Saber-Tusk packs were definitely used a bit recklessly by me, as I just dumped them into melee combat, overextended myself without giving them the appropriate supporting units, allowing my opponent with the cavalry to catch them out of position and pick them off with a surround from Knights of the Realm or even the Companions of Canal. Nobblers being nobblers, of course, can't really say much about them, but some of them did earn back their valor and then some more. The Slaughtermaster himself did some nice damage with the Bone Crusher fisting some of the companions, but then after being surrounded by all these single entities and the companions anti-large, he simply gets slaughtered. Overall, definitely an outstanding use of the spell Flesh to Stone from our opponent here, keeping the companions alive and also spamming those physical resistance on the Green Knight and Fey Enchantress, keeping them quite healthy in the fight to beat down my troops or counteract any possible buffs, maximizing their strength and rendering a lot of my key units useless against them. While the companions and the Knights of the Realm steadily worked down my troops even after being charged by armor piercing, the physical resistance was really handy in keeping these companions alive so that the Fae can heal them back up. Even at the end of the battle, they still have most of their unit intact, ready to charge down the enemies of the Lady. And yeah, that's it for today's battle. I hope viewers you enjoy it, and if you do and want to see more, be sure to hit the like and subscribe. I'll be uploading more videos including battle replays like this one, wild army builds and tips and strategies for Total War Warhammer multiplayer. And if you want to showcase your own replays, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check it out. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.